Hello and good evening and welcome to the London Honey Company. This is quite a new event for us. We're streaming live from Honey HQ here in Bermondsey, and we can see lots of people tuning in. In front of me is loads of remote cameras and lots of people wearing masks, and we've all got a lot of good social distancing practices going on. We're very excited that you've joined us this evening. We're going to screen the first of a trilogy of 3 films that have been made by incredible filmmaker Steve Turvey. These films really just show British beekeeping in their elements. I know there's a lot of commercial beekeepers and amateur beekeepers tuning in this evening, and that's really, we're really pleased that you've joined us, and we hope that you enjoy this first film, which will be on heather honey. So, as a few of you will know, heather honey is absolutely fantastic tasting honey. Here it is. It's a jelly-like honey which is thixotropic and is incredibly tasty on toast and on yogurt. But it's incredibly difficult to harvest, so weather dependent. Climate conditions are really difficult in the British Isles, and so this film shows how difficult it is, and also when it goes right, how also magnificent it is as well. Little bit about London Honey Company. We've been here in this warehouse vicinity for about 20 years. I started keeping bees on my rooftop just over the way here 20 years ago because I wanted to bring a little bit of the countryside to London. 20 years down the line, we keep bees all around the country looking for really unusual nectar sources, and we work with some incredible beekeepers also, helping them in the harvesting with them to bring you some incredible honeys. It's been a challenging year for us all, but we've been very fortunate in that we've been able to get out and about and be in our bees in the most amazing British weather. So that's been a real challenge, and it's been a joyous making this film, and we're going to show it shortly, and then we're going to have a little Q&A with Steve, the fantastic filmmaker that's made this film with us, and it's just really interesting to hear about how he has sort of come to spend time with us and all the process of making this incredible film. As I said, it's a short film, it's only 5 minutes long, but do join us. We'll be on Instagram Live and also on YouTube projecting through, so send in your questions. Lots of tricky questions, and we look forward to hearing from you. So we're going to press play. I think we're close to pressing play. Hopefully all the technology is going to work. There's lots of thumbs up from people with masks. So hopefully this will go live, and you'll get to enjoy the film. We're going to show it again afterwards, so it'll be live streaming through Instagram, so you can watch it again afterwards. Okay, so we'll rejoin you in about 5 minutes' time. Enjoy the film and get your questions in. All right, cheerio. My name's Steve BENBOW.
My name's George Chelton.
I'm owner and founder of the London Honey Company.
I'm a beekeeper for the London Honey Company.
I think the most important thing to mention is that when I moved to London, I'm really a countryside boy at heart, and I wanted to bring a little bit of the countryside to London. I first came into contact with bees through my grandmother in Shropshire, who kept bees on her homestead. I really first became aware of them sort of having amazing sort of creamed piece of honey on toast on her doorstep. I knew a lot about bees, having had them as a child, and I looked at my rooftop in Bermondsey and wanted to start keeping bees there. What London taught me was that you can end up with really incredible complex honeys. We now have bees scattered all over the country, so we look for more unusual honeys. I wanted to see what the countryside offered, really. It varies from year to year. Some years you can get from one location really incredible hawthorn honey that's like a bittersweet honey in the spring. Other years that honey doesn't arrive if it's raining and bees can't go out and forage. We always try and look for these unusual honeys by putting the bees in these incredible locations that are really unusual, really old style of farming, low use of pesticides or no use of pesticides and insecticides by the farmer or the landowner. What it makes is really incredible honeys that just have such incredible sort of characteristics and charm. That's what makes the honey we produce so original and so incredible, really. We're not just making one big homogenised pot of honey. It's all very much about the nectar sources and where those bees are situated. We are dedicated to the production of exceptional pure British honey. We produce about 12 different honeys from around the UK, which is very much weather dependent. You can't always guarantee you're going to get one specific type of nectar or one specific type of honey. And that's really very apparent on the heather moors. Last year we didn't produce any heather honey at all. This year it's been a really sort of incredible crop. And that's what we're really trying to do. We're trying to look for specific nectar sources that will make these incredible honeys that are full of charm and character. So, for example, the ling heather on the remote heather moors of Yorkshire, Lancashire, Scotland, parts of Wales as well, and Shropshire. We haul the bees up there in the autumn to take advantage of these heather moors, and the honey is really quite incredible and aromatic, but there's nothing else up there for the bees to forage on. So they'll head out onto the heather moors and come back in with this really thixotropic, jelly-like honey that is really incredible and aromatic. And that is so very much nectar specific. There's nothing else flowering at that time of year that's going to contaminate that honey. There's nothing as beautiful and as charming as the Shropshire Hills. As I tell my nephew, who now works with us, I always come back to the Shropshire Hills and I have a huge longing for them. They're so beautiful. And ling heather has to be my favourite honey for that reason. It has to be, when I taste it on a winter's morning, it's so evocative and charming that you are instantly transformed back to those heather hills and the hours of work and toil that you've taken to move your bees up there.
I started beekeeping and had a fascination with bees since a very young age, since I was about 4. I was always fascinated by beekeeping. It's been my first season as a commercial beekeeper and I've loved every second. It's no office job. It's lovely to be out long summer days and moving bees around and being with nature. I'm so lucky and I absolutely love it. We work hard, but the bees work harder.
My name is Steve BENBOW.
My name's George Charlton.
I'm owner and founder of the London Honey Company. Well, gosh, there you go. Thank you all very much for watching. Joined by Teal, who's our incredible bee hound. I think he's distracted by something over there. We're also joined by George, who is also our beekeeper and my nephew. And of course by the fabulous filmmaker Steve TURVEY. We're also live on Instagram as well as YouTube. We see there was a great number of you watching. Thank you very much, and there's some questions coming in. It was truly quite, I think, maybe I'm biased, quite an incredible film, really sort of beautifully shot. And we're just going to talk a little bit about how the film was made and the challenging circumstances of that during COVID. So we're just going to do that for sort of 5-10 minutes as your questions come in. We plan to do this again in the new year. We've got 2 other films we want to release. As I said earlier, one is on borage, which is the most incredible nectar source and really, really sort of beautiful imagery. There were some borage pictures at the start of that film just now, and that just shows how remarkable it is, and it makes a brilliant honey. And also we've got another film on some bees that we had in Kent this year, so that's also worth watching, and we'll probably launch those in the new year. So great, so here we are in Honey HQ, and George, I know, has some questions that he's filtering coming in. Yeah. But I just really wanted to talk to Steve about really about the challenges and how we sort of first met, really. I think that's a good way to start, isn't it? And how we got introduced and how the film came about.
Yeah, I mean, it started quite a while ago, didn't it? It was 3 years ago, I think, when we first started talking about doing it. And we got rained off that year, didn't we? So we decided to do it in a pandemic instead.
Yeah, yes. Now, those of you who are asking, we have been very strict, and George is 2 metres apart that way. That is 2 metres, and Steve is 2 metres that way. Tails off 2 metres. So we are being very strict, and camera's very remote. So we did try 2 years ago, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. But yeah, I think was it heavy rain, or I mean, I can't remember why, but we decided we couldn't do it for whatever reason. We committed to this year, didn't we? And then we travelled all over the country, finding different wonderful and wild places.
So we thought we'd test Steve off with a little sort of test sheet, just to see how he'd get on and build him up to the heather, really. So we started him off, we were cropping in Kent, I think, and that must have been quite alarming to see that many bees in the air and a lot of honey being harvested.
Yeah, never filming bees before. You kind of go with your usual approach of being able to film things when there aren't thousands of things flying at your face, and you're not in a bee suit which is about 1 million degrees inside. So you're trying to focus on things. Your screen's here, you've got bees everywhere, you've got a mesh in front of your face and you can't pull focus, you've got, you know, there's a million things going on, there's these incredibly loud bees buzzing around, so it's nothing like filming anything that you usually would.
So if you look at going back to some of the borage shots, Steve spent ages, it was such a boiling day, it must have been pushing on late 30s that day, and Steve was sweating loads, but trying to get the focus of that bee going right into the borage flower. And if you see the start of the film and see that shot, it's absolutely epic, isn't it?
It took ages, didn't it? We were there because you'd find a bee. I mean, finding a bee on the borage was hard. Well, it wasn't hard enough, but then you found it. As soon as you got focus on it, it was gone.
Yeah.
So it took a good few hours just to get those 2 shots.
I think me and you left the field eventually at about 9:30. Didn't we? We were there for a long time.
So we started Steve off in Kent, and then we really went for it on the Shropshire Hills.
Yeah.
And that's quite a nice little story, because George and myself have been moving bees up to the Shropshire Hills for quite some time now. George has been beekeeping with me, not hauling hives, but beekeeping with me since he was 4. And Steve said we needed to be up at 3:30 up onto an area of the Shropshire Hills called the Stiper Stones. Now, the Stiper Stones is renowned for its mist. And then George and myself approached in the truck at 3:30 in the morning. We were cursing Steve because we were convinced the mist was going to be all over the hills, and he wanted this most beautiful sunrise. And if you see the start of that sequence, it looks like an ad for Toyota. It's so beautiful, of the Hilux pulling up with all the beehives and everything on board. But when we started to pull up onto the hills, it was covered in mist.
I was stood there on my own in the mist thinking, what have I done? This is not going to work.
We missed the point where Steve went up on his own and hauled up his own equipment, whilst we got an extra half an hour in bed.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I'll
show Steve's dedication to his
I'll get there and get set up. You guys can have a bit more in bed. And got there and I was just like, what am I doing? It's pitch black, there's fog everywhere.
But then suddenly...
then all of a sudden, as the truck came up, the sun came out.
Then the money shot arrived, and we were so fortunate, this $1 million shot of the sun breaking through, and for what, half an hour?
Oh yeah, we didn't have it long.
No, half an hour, the beautiful sunlight just came through, and we did that opening sequence, which is just truly beautiful. We then just packed everything up, grabbed some breakfast, and then headed up north to go do some filming at another Heathermore. And you'll see those pictures as well, which are really quite vast and quite beautiful. Yeah. So tell us about filming the rest of it, really.
Well, I mean, you'll see in one of the shots there's the truck going through this Heathermore, and you know, back to the problems of shooting. We were shooting in COVID times and, you know, socially distancing. So you'll notice I'm actually sat on the back of the truck because we weren't sat in the same truck, were we? So I was controlling, you know, getting a shot from the back of the truck as we were going along. So there was definitely challenges which, you know, could have been easier. But yeah, I mean, it was an amazing location and we got the amazing shots, didn't we?
Yeah, that location was really quite beautiful. And we, Steve mentioned, we had a bit of a terrible year last year with our heather. We didn't get any heather honey at all, but this year we've had a really good crop. We've had some beautiful cones, really quite stunning cones, and you can see at the end George carving those up. There's a lot of beautiful heather pollen in them as well, and you really captured those frames with the light behind them.
We came back, didn't we, and we kind of got some really beautiful frames and filmed them and the cutting and everything just to show all of the elements of it. So we got them, the bees out, the hives out in location, and then we saw the final finished product in the film.
Yeah, we did invite Steve up onto the Heathermores for the cropping, and this guy is truly devoted filmmaker, as we've already talked through, and he was really busy that week. Suddenly he got really busy, and I thought, well, I won't lean on him too much, but we trekked everyone up to the Heathermores, and the mist came down, and it would have been the most terrible bit of filming, and we had to crop all the heather cones really carefully by hand with a brush, and it was really quite painful, and it wouldn't have made great filming at all.
No,
really.
it felt very guilty.
Well, I mean, especially because on every other time we filmed, we were just blessed with beautiful weather. So, you know, we're incredibly lucky in that respect.
And that's, I think, why we wanted to make this film, was we wanted to show that it is difficult collecting and moving bees onto the heather. It is a really tough harvest to get all your bees up there. You're really unsure if you're going to get a good harvest because it's so weather dependent and bee health dependent. And there's a lot of great heather honey beekeepers and producers out there scattered around the UK that are truly like unsung heroes that, you know, do this year in, year out. I've done it for 20 odd years. And I'm in my early 50s and I already feel really tired. The season needs to finish. But yeah, and I just wanted to show that how amazing the harvest is, that this remote moorland can produce the most beautiful sort of heather honey that is just so delicious and so incredible. And also, you know, the fact that we, like lots of you incredible beekeepers tuning in this evening, are fantastic producers. And it's sort of a bit of an unsung hero, really, that heather honey is like our premium, almost British honey. That's really sort of quite incredible. Yeah, and I think Steve's done a magnificent job in capturing this harvest for us, really. And it was interesting that I was led to your work through all the other makers that you've done. So.
Yeah, so I mean, I do a series of films on basic crafts, and it's made by hand. Crafts that are based within the UK, and it's just kind of finding these beautiful crafts and these people that have dedicated their life to you know what they do, and then making these vignette films, telling the story, getting really involved with them. So you're not just an onlooker, you're involved in it, and that way you get to tell these beautiful stories and see these amazing places and the amazing crafts that people do.
Fantastic. George, do you want to go to some questions?
Yeah, we'll go to some questions. We've had some emailed in before we went live, as well as I can see you're all putting in questions now in the chat, so thank you very much for that. We'll start off with an email question for Steve. The two Steves is getting a bit very confusing.
Forgot to mention that.
So we'll go Steve B first. What was the most important thing for you to communicate in that LHC film?
Well, I think I might have already mentioned that I just wanted to get the point across of how incredible British honey is, how hard British beekeepers work, and endlessly, tirelessly toil away, sort of untold heroes. They're producing fantastic honeys around the UK. I wanted to show that the British Isles is such a beautiful, beautiful place, and that it has such incredible diverse flora and fauna, and I just really wanted that to be brought across by a most incredible filmmaker, and we've been so incredible stumbling into Steve almost and discovering that he's really captured that moment of how incredible the British Isles is in a sadly in a pandemic, but also it's really incredible times.
Lovely. Question for Steve T now. How much of the filming did you determine prior to filming, and how much took shape through the filming itself? Because I know there's a lot of challenges going through during the process.
Yeah, it all went out the window on the first day.
Of course, it did. I already knew the answer to that one.
So I had a plan of what I wanted to do, but I've never filming bees before or working in that context before. It was just nothing. You couldn't plan to do that. It was everything changed. Location, temperature, people, tiredness, everything. It was a very challenging thing to shoot. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'm just going to highlight, because we're live, to Aileen, that my phone is going flat on Instagram Live, and I thought I'd just mention that.
Very
because
professional.
I've just noticed that. So I think you've got to click the button. Sorry, Aileen needs to stand on the stool. I've also got to mention that we're in a railway arch, which I was told to mention early on, and that's why every now and then you'll hear a rumble going over. So just so you know,
Teal's back.
Yeah, cool.
Lovely. Another question, quick question on the live chat to Steve.
Yeah.
Steve
T.
Steve T. Yep.
So I think someone wants to know about the filming, and Laura's saying, did you get in pretty close to the bees, or were most shots from far away, and did you wear a suit to film as well?
Yeah, so wearing a suit throughout the whole thing, with the hood up all the time, which was very tricky because obviously, a lot of it was shot in bright sunlight.
Yeah.
So your screen was hard enough to see anyway. Then you've got this netting in front of it, which made it even harder. But generally, everything was shot about this far away, and then for the detailed shots, it was shot on a 100mm macro, and then we were kind of incredibly close. We were kind of, I don't know if you can see, like this kind of close to the bees to get those beautiful, really incredible, detailed shots.
Yeah, really beautiful pictures. Really.
I've also got a question from Virginia for Steve B. That says,
good evening, Virginia.
When you mentioned the honey with charm, what did you mean by that?
Honey with charm?
Honey with charm, yeah.
Lucky charm. Virginia, I have no idea. Thank you for asking a question. Why? Sometimes I don't know what you mean, Steve.
Okay, let's move on.
I'm so sorry.
We've got another question from John Garrity.
Good evening, Johnny boy.
When the bees leave the hive, do they always return to the same one?
That's a top question, John. Thank you very much. Yes. At night, we move the bees. When they all come back into the hives, we block them off with a crude piece of foam. And when we're moving bees, we put the stress onto the beekeepers themselves, not onto the bees, and that's really important. So we close the bees off with this little piece of foam, and underneath the hives is a mesh that allows the air to flow around them. When they're on the trucks, the air can also flow all the way through all the hives. We don't move huge numbers like you see in America of juggernauts of bees moving. We move in groups of 24 or 48. We normally move in a team, and the bees up to the north of England came from the Cotswolds way, and we travel in the middle of the night. They then are brought onto the Hevermore and released, and they reset their sat-nav, they work out where the sun is, and they will then come back to that specific hive, because they have their own sort of gravitational sort of pull and radar in relation to where the sun and the hive is. Sorry, John, did you ask for all this? And then, yes. Is that explained?
I think that's
great.
nice.
Cool. Great. Wrap that up.
I think think this question's aimed at Steve T. This is from Pippa. Hello, Pippa.
Evening,
Hope
Pippa.
you're well.
Evening, Prosecco Paul.
She said it's a very beautiful film. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pippa.
And Steve, how many hours filming did it take, and to edit the final piece? Because I know you have a lot of footage.
Yeah, I'd say when we were filming the bees, because everything moved so quickly, it wasn't a case of set up for that shot. It was very much move with the bees, move with the guys as they were working. So it was very much you had to go with the flow, and you kind of rolled on a lot of stuff that didn't get used. So I'd say when we were filming, generally, they were full days, weren't they?
Oh gosh, yes.
You know, we were up at sunrise, we were kind of shooting all day, and then moving around to different locations. And basically, I was trying to shoot the majority of the film in beautiful light. So start of the day, end of the day. But then, so yeah, there was hours and hours and hours of footage for the film, and I'd say probably to cut it all together probably took the best part of a couple of weeks, I would say, in and out, because I like to do an edit, leave it, come back with fresh eyes. So yeah, on and off for about 2 weeks, I'd say.
But you kept on telling me that film could have been half an hour.
Oh yeah, I mean, you could have made a half-an-hour documentary about it, because as well, when we recorded the voiceover, we sat and we went into a studio and kind of just had a conversation like this, and then I picked out the best kind of moments that Steve and George spoke. But I mean, there's tons of stuff in there that we didn't use. I mean, we spoke for about an hour, didn't we?
Yeah. And Virginia, I think what I meant was that honey is just made with total devotion, and the work level involved in producing it, really, it's just made with so much warmth and love, really, because that sounds a bit Nigella, but what I mean is that you know, year in, year out we do this. I've done this for so long, and you can get so fed up when you come to your hives and you've got nothing in them from all the work that we've done, from hauling all the bees up, hundreds of hives up onto the heavenmoors, and suddenly, you know, all that cost of it all, and just you're totally exhausted, and you crack that hive and you get this immense smell of heather coming up in your nostrils, and some years that doesn't happen, and it's just, you know, very, very tragic when it happens. So yeah, when we move bees to the heather, it is just almost a total devotion, and each jar should be, you know, £500 each for the amount of energy that we put into producing it, and our bees, of course. Yeah.
Lovely. Before I ask another question, I just want to clarify something for Karen that I've seen. You were asking about, you had computer issues when we started the film, but don't worry, you will be able to watch it again. It will be on Instagram TV after this, so we'll upload that later today or tomorrow, so you will be able to view it, don't worry.
Yeah, and yeah, that's a good point.
Lovely. Do you want to continue? But
No.
There's another question from Sarah, asking how long is the beekeeping season?
Top question. So if we start now, we're rather frantic at the moment because we're in full Christmas order mode. So our bees are now hopefully all snug for the winter. We've brought them down from the heathermoor, and they're all on our sort of overwintering sites. And really they'll stay there probably until sort of maybe January, February time, where we treat them with an organic treatment for parasitic mite. But really the season starts when the warm weather starts to arrive in mid-March, and we're in our bees a lot more daily, almost from the end of March, and then that will keep going all the way through until late September to mid-October. Really, it's been so mild this year. In fact, it's been so mild that we've had to keep on checking on our bees that their stores for winter are still there, and the bees are out flying, and yeah, we saw some swallows the other day still down at the coast. So yeah, it's almost, the season is almost extending, but now's the time where we like to reflect on the season and think about all the things that have gone well as all the terrible things that have happened. There was a point where George and myself were pulling on onto the motorway in early April, and the roads were empty, and we were heading out as farmers. We were able to do that, and as food producers, and it was, yeah, just really harrowing. No one on the roads, and we were able to go and tend our bees. In fact, when COVID first was kicking off in early March, we were actually putting honey boxes onto the hives, because we thought we just might not be back in these hives until the late summer.
Yeah.
we might not be allowed to go see our hives, and we thought, gosh, they're just going to swarm. So we were cramming boxes on, just thinking if we have to leave them, we have to leave them. But then slowly things developed, and fortunately our association is very active and worked with the government to bring out guidelines that we were farmers and we were able to tend our livestock, as it were. Sorry, Sarah, that was long-winded, but hopefully you got the picture. Yeah.
Let's go back to email now. So, Steve T.
Yep.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more, someone wants to know about how the film was shot, a little bit more detail on how we went about it, and what equipment you used? Yeah, a bit more technical.
Okay. I mean,
technical
it was all shot on a Sony FS7, and it was all shot kind of high frame rate, and then a mixture of that and then drone footage. So obviously the big aerial shots are from drone, they're not from a helicopter. And yeah, it was all shot on one main camera. And that's generally how I shoot. I kind of have the main camera, which is Sony FS7, and then shoot from a drone as well.
And those drone footage are just incredible. You could see on the borage that the bees weren't happy with the drone. They didn't like the noise from the propellers, but I didn't notice so much on the header. But
no, they didn't seem to mind it so much on the header.
Yeah, but those shots are, I've not really seen shots like that of hives in their sort of surroundings, coming in and seeing them there. The ones on the borage are just so beautiful because you get to see them situated right in the middle of the borage fields.
The sea of purple, don't you? Purpley blue, don't you?
Just so incredible, Steve. The shots are just brilliant. Yeah.
I think we need to hand Teal the mic now, because Julia is asking a question for Teal. What is the best part of being a bee hound?
Well, firstly, congratulations if that's Julia and Nick. You've known Teal since he was a wee pup, and so you know that his life is rather privileged. And so he rides shotgun with us across the season, and I think that shot of him and George just about sums it up, really. He gets the pilot seat, as it were, and is well catered for during the season. Interestingly, he doesn't like face masks, and almost gets a little bit anxious when in the warehouse. We're all wearing face masks in the warehouse here, packing orders for Christmas, and he doesn't seem to like that. But also congratulations to Julia and Nick and their arrival of their new baby and their new venture. That's fantastic news.
Let's do another one on emails for Steve B. I think the Shropshire viewers amongst us will want to know the answer to this one, but I see the film is shot up in the Shropshire Hills. Why was this location so important, and why did it have a particular meaning for you?
Okay, so I'm a Shropshire lad, as they say, and what was interesting this year especially was that Shropshire didn't yield as much heather, didn't yield anything last year as the north of England. But we would still go back there. It's a pilgrimage for us, really. I've been taking bees to the heather, as I said, for almost 20 years, over 20 years actually, and we would still go back there. It's like a homecoming. You pull up onto the hills, normally in the middle of the night, and put out your bees in the headlights of the trucks in a random pattern. You fall into ditches and you're covered in sort of like sheep poo, and you're totally exhausted because you've driven for the last sort of 6-8 hours up onto the moors. But then you camp out, you're in a tent on the back of your truck, or you're sleeping under your truck, and the sun comes up and your bees start flying, and it's the most evocative place in the world. And there in front of you are the most beautiful, beautiful hills laid out before you. Hey, Ben, Grandad. And that's the homecoming. That is why we will always go to Shropshire. The only sad thing about that, hang on, I've gone all positive. But no, the only sad thing about that is that the hills are evolving. And we have had to move from certain parts of the hills because of something called heather beetle. And that has sort of decimated the mature heather plants, and you can pull onto the heather moors and get up in the morning and discover they're all rust coloured, and that's really something that's very sad. So there's no flower, there's no purple glow when you wake up. And so some government bodies and some private bodies are more active than others in maintaining those heathers by mowing. They're not burnt anymore, and a lot of new growth has to happen for that heather to come back and be more vigorous. However, a member of a government body said to me earlier this year that some of the hills may not even recover with global warming. The environment might not be now so suited to heather, and that's really very, very sad, and so the whole ecosystem will go. And so, yeah, Shropshire Hills for us are, as I keep on telling George, and I think he realises now, are the most...
Maybe not when I was younger, but
yeah,
now
yeah.
I do realise.
They're the most beautiful place in the world, I think. Yeah.
So, question for Steve.
Yes.
T. It might be nice to touch on the trilogy of films, so the series lens on beekeeping season. It might be nice to touch on the other ones as well as Extraordinary Heather.
Well, I think going back to like the original plan was we were going to make a film, one film.
Yeah.
You know, and we started filming, and then it quickly became apparent that there's too much to put into one film, unless it is going to be an hour long or half an hour long. So what we did was we then, because each location was so different, it kind of felt wrong to mush them all together. So we've got a Borage film, a Kent film, and a Heather film, essentially, which just does little vignettes on those environments, those places, you know, the techniques and the environment. So it's just little vignettes on those different environments.
Great. Yeah. Fantastic. So I'm getting the winding up signal from behind the camera. I'd like to say thank you all very much for watching. This has been a totally new experience for us all, and a massive thank you to Chris and Aileen behind here, all masked up, and a huge thank you to George Teal, but a massive thank you to Steve. Go check out the rest of his work, the most incredible filmmaker, and I'm just so privileged to see this film, if you've not seen it, we're going to put it up next in the next few minutes. It will be on Instagram, and look out for these other films that will be coming in the new year.
Yeah.
When are you planning? When are they going to come out?
I'll let you know, Steve. I don't know.
Okay.
So I need to talk to you.
Okay.
So let's discuss that off air.
Okay.
But
Sorry
anyway,
about
a massive thank you, and stay safe, and have a fantastic autumn. Thank you very much. Cheerio. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.